Hamilton, hey, what amendment said no unreasonable searches and seizures? Yeah. You need a Band-Aid, quick run. I assume you're bleeding.
Yeah.
Or you just need a Band-Aid for scavenger hunt. Oh, I'm sorry, go. If there's blood involved, yeah, we just. I think that's it. What amendment said all power that does not go to the federal government? Thank you, that could have been an assassin. I'm pointing. You gotta say assassin. I don't know, that'd be a good one, but someone walk by that pointing at some. What amendment said all power not going to the federal government goes to the states? Ninth is people. Tenth amendment. Someone had their hand up. Oh, I think anyway. I got a grade that. Okay. And what do you call the president? Mr. President. Some public. And people really they didn't call Mr. President back then. The Republicans called him a traitor. What a great time calling George Washington a traitor. And for the cabinet level position, what cabinet level position handles foreign affairs? Today it still handles it. What is it called? Secretary of State, the state. And Alexander Hamilton was Secretary of what? Treasury. So let's get to Hamiltonian economics. Oh, and they want to funnel money to whom? Hamiltonian economics.
The merchant.
Yeah, not all the elite, the merchant class. Those financiers, not the wealthy plantation owners. And certainly not the vast majority of people. So before we get started, what day is it today? It is Flamingo Friday, everybody. This is Flamingo Friday. And look, the sun has come out for Flamingo Friday. We can thank the flamingo. So we all know what that means. What does it mean? Drum roll, please. Any drum roll. Drum roll. Come on. Here we go. Here we go. Yes. Come on. Give it up. Give it up. Give it up. Hey, before we get started, have you guys noticed? Have you guys seen the rat? Everyone, look at the rat. Well, the thing, what does carpet do?
Have the room together.
Yeah. Tie the room together, don't you think? Yeah. And it's got proper glue. It's not properly aligned. Okay. So that'll be in the middle of this tile. That tile. That's close. On Tuesday, you're going to, before we get started, on Tuesday, you're going to do a little quiz on the presidential powers. I'm sorry, the separation of powers. And so it's going to look something like this. Just wrote it in with line. Remember, you have to have two powers. You have to have a check for each one. And you have to know that the three branches of government, which I better so. Sound good? Just a little quiz. 13 total lines you have to fill out, 13 things. Most of it should be really easy. You know, just 3 powers for the president, 2 powers for Congress. That's it. Very easy little quiz on Tuesday. I don't want to do it on Monday because that'll be like. In fact, I wouldn't have done this quiz when I scheduled for Friday or thought about it. I forgot what it was for periods. But you guys are now fully loaded with PEP, right? And then there'll be a PEP assembly after school. PEP rally. I said assembly. Yeah, PEP rally. So, all right. Did we get this?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's part of the same thing. It's barbecue, and I think it's wrapped. Isn't that what they're barbecuing? Not my rooms. 3 hamburgers and a hot dog, not a bad deal. Did we get this?
Yes.
Okay, so we got this, the assumption bill. So remember all those speculators were buying up bonds, especially by 1785 at a penny on the dollar. So that would be a 10,000% profit. What an amazing deal on an investment. But the whole goal was to funnel money, therefore, to the merchant class. It's the merchant class that was scooping up these bonds for the most part. Oh, there are a few speculators amongst the plantation owners, but they never really have a lot of extra money. They have wealth, but not a lot of money. And why do you do this? Well, there's a couple big reasons why. Funnel the money. Hamilton wants these people to have money, but the other one, you pay off your debts, you get good credit. Now, there's a very complex system that if you want to blow your mind, go look at how they figured out credit ratings. It's actually, it seems like a scam. But if you pay back your debts, it makes it easier to borrow money down the road. That's the reason to have good credit. So sometimes you might hear that Hamilton, and this is also in your like review book, and they imply it in the textbook. Part of the reason was to pay off the debts. No, it wasn't that he didn't want debts. He wanted more debt. And the only way to get more debt was to get good credit. He wants to borrow more. So borrow more money, more debt, more bonds. He really wants to borrow money. And I should add, since this law was passed, the United States has always, to this day, paid back its debts. Always. Never did not pay its debts. American Treasury bills are some of the safest investments in the world. The U.S. has always paid back its debts. Always, always, always. If there's ever a day the U.S. does not, that would be an economic catastrophe for the United States. So, because part of our power is the fact that we always pay back our debts. So our bonds are worth something and our dollars are always worth. It's a big deal. Like France has gone default like 4 times, and France is an incredibly wealthy country. We're not even going to Uganda or Argentina. So more money, more debt. Why? Well, 2 things. Now, government will take that money that's sitting there. Government will borrow it. So the money's not doing anything. People are just holding on to this extra money. They buy bonds. The government takes it and then invests. Now, he's applying in manufacturing. I put down roads, but not just roads. Think about it. At that time, canals, harbors, and then in 50 years, railroads, and then 100 years after that, paved highways, airports, etc. I mean, the U.S. government has always invested in business. I mean, where do you think you got the internet from? Well, it's pharmaceuticals, government spending, at least up to now, that's been drastically cut. So, back to this. Oh, and then the military. He wanted a strong military. Invest in the military. But there's something else too. So you have all these relatively wealthy people. They buy bonds. So in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, those bonds will mature and the government will pay them back plus interest. But what has to be around for those investors to get their money back for these bonds? What has to be there in 20 years, in 30 years? Not just money. Because money has to be worth something. So the money be worth something, what has to be here? They get their money back if the United States fails. And they borrow that money, or they give it in dollars. If the US fails, the dollars will be worthless. They get nothing. They get nothing unless the United States is here. So to Hamilton's point of view, he will buy the loyalty from the merchant class because they have to get the money for their bonds. He will buy their loyalty. So in a way, you're right. The money won't mean anything unless the U.S. is here. Isn't this a clever little strategy? So we give good credit to invest in manufacturing what he believes in. And then those merchant class will do whatever it takes to bring prosperity to the United States because they want their money back. That also kind of tells you that he thinks the merchant class have no loyalty. They're not patriots. Patriots are loyal to the country because they believe in what it stands for. Talk more about this definition down the road. Merchant classes, what he's saying is they're loyal to one thing, and what's one thing? Money. So they'll go to any country. So that's his point of view. But then what? Where do you get the money from? Oops, I gotta do one thing really quick. Where does the money come from to pay back these debts? You have to have money that is worth something. You have to have money that people think will be valuable down the road. But, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to add one thing. They will invest in manufacturing with the idea being that that will make the country prosper and they'll get the money back. And they will become the first, this is his thinking, of what we call capitalists. Now that term did not exist yet, but capital are like the owners of the machines. Have you ever heard of a factory? Well, that term, as we know it, is just about ready to be used. It's actually a term from India. And that would become the position of the Federalist Party. But where do you get the money to pay back the debts? What did they start taxing? What product? Whiskey. A tax on whiskey. Now, this wasn't just a tax on a commodity that people drank and they got addicted to this drug. This was really important along the frontier. Along the frontier here, there's no roads. So if you're growing corn, especially, corn, maize, has a lot of sugar in it. But anyways, corn, it's really expensive to move because you got to sell a lot of corn to make money. And without roads, the price itself goes up dramatically. To ship it, you make no money. But if you mash it, distill it, whiskey is a value-added product. You don't have to sell as much to make money. And so whiskey was a way for Western farmers to make money. So he's targeting Western farmers so they can sell whiskey. Whiskey became so valuable that in the early US, where money was very scarce, whiskey became a form of currency almost. Kind of the expectation of money, but I got whiskey. You can make it out of any product, any corn or wheat or anything like that has sugar in it, but there's so much sugar in corn. Corn syrup, you know what I mean? Lots of sugar. So here's where the rest of his strategy goes. You tax the whiskey, that will pay back for all the debts. But he's targeting Western farmers, especially, this is called an excise tax. So that anybody who sells whiskey's got to pay the tax. It targets small farmers. The more whiskey you sell, the less tax you pay. Did everyone hear that? So it benefits big producers, hurts small producers on purpose. And he doesn't want to just hurt them. He wants to destroy them. He wants to drive them out of business, bankrupt small producers who are already teetering on the edge. Remember I told you about Shays' rebellion? Those pressures are still there. And then what's going to happen then? Well, agricultural monopolies. That's what he wants, monopolies. But then what's going to happen to the desperate small farmers who have lost everything and are literally teetering on the brink of not just ruin, starvation? Exactly. Destitute farmers, cheap labor. That's why I put the question mark. That's what's going to happen. What happened? They become cheap labor. Factory work is difficult, hard, dangerous, nightmarish. It would be nightmarish beyond comprehension to our point of view. And factory work today is really hard and backbreaking and mind-numbing. Imagine it then. So they become cheap labor. Now, one thing about this is from an old textbook, and I love this. Hamilton's financial plan. Payback debt goes 1, 2, 3, and then for some reason it goes 4, 5. Doesn't go clockwise, like it shouldn't go this way, but it goes like this, and it goes from left to right again. But why did I show this? Because I love what they decide to show a whiskey distiller farmer who's that. That's a whiskey distiller. Some guy without a shirt and coonskin hat. That one just makes me laugh so much. So Jefferson, Madison saw this diabolical plan and they were furious. This is not just a plan to pay back debt. This is not just a plan to raise a tax on whiskey. This is a plan to remake the entire United States, to remake it in the image of Hamilton, that Hamilton wants. An industrial nation ran by the merchant class, with the majority of the population are factory workers. And they're desperate. If people are desperate, what does that do to wages? Dramatically drops. Because if you're desperate, you can't complain. If you're desperate, you got to take whatever job you get. If you're desperate, you can't go into a workplace and say, I'm overworked and underpaid, give me a raise, because you'll get fired and you're desperate again. Desperate workers drop wages. And the more people that are on the edge of destitution, the more it drives down everybody's wages. Everybody. You think about it for a second. If you and another person go in to try to get a job, and you're okay, if you just want to get a better job, you're doing okay, and the other person is desperate, what does that do to the wage that person's going to, what wage the employer is going to offer? They'll drop the wage down to the person who's destitute. You want that new job, you got to take it. Thus dropping from these wages. Sure, that's what I'm talking about. Immigrants do some things. They can drop wages, but they also take jobs that maybe people who are not in that desperate strait will take. Economics is interesting when it comes to wages. So Jefferson and Madison first. Now they're big plantation owners. So they're not the small farmers that are being targeted, but they see themselves in that position, but they also realize that Jefferson and Madison have power in 1789, but in 20 years they might not. And the power will all go to the cities and the merchants and the brand new stocks and bonds and finance. And they're going to be left out. And they also looked at Hamilton and said, oh my God, this man is beyond dangerous. He is a diabolical, evil man. Which he kind of was. But we got to stop him. I should add even Hamilton's allies were looking at this proposal. We might agree with part of it. You're scary. So, rural farmer money will go to urban merchants. It'll be like this, sucking it all up. We have a little bit of that today. You go to rural America and that money just being sucked up, but it's to the very tip top. And they dub these mercenaries. These merchant class people are nothing but mercenaries. So that became the anti-merchant class term. They're mercenaries who only care about money, not the country. Now, of course, that's kind of what Hamilton thought, or he wouldn't have done this proposal. And so they're opposed. They are dramatically opposed. Washington, the plantation owner, was also a speculator. And Washington was kind of for it. But now there's an impasse. So Jefferson's very influential, but he's Secretary of State. Madison is a member of the House of Representatives, and he had been elected Speaker of the House, the man who sets the agenda, beats the gavel, third in line to the president, the Speaker of the House. So Hamilton also knew where Madison and Jefferson were going. Oh, well, almost forgot. So one of the positions they're going to have is that the central government will be pro-urban. The central government will be pro-merchant class. The central government will always be against the states. So the central government's pro-urban, and that will become the leading position. Anti-central government, pro-state governments of the brand new party called the Republican Party. States over the central government. No, this is not the same Republican Party as we have today. And the Federalist Party is not the same as the Federalists for the Constitution. That is a Republican Party position. Now, I put this here for one very important reason. So they're opposed to the central government because it only favors urban interests. Are they really opposed to the central government for that reason? Or are they opposed to the central government because they're not in charge of the central government? What do you suppose is going to happen when Republicans become in charge of the central government? Will they want a weaker central government? When Republicans are in charge? Central government's pretty good. We're in power. And you'll see this time after time. And it looks exactly like hypocrisy. Whatever party or groups in power, they want a stronger central government. They're out of power, they want a weaker central government. And you see this every time to today. So, just for your A year ago, President Biden was president, and Republicans and President Trump accused him of being a dictator and doing all, they're gonna go back to having no powers in the central government. They'll weaken the federal government and get back to the way things were. And then what did President Trump do once he became president? He strengthened the power of the federal government. And then, of course, what are Democrats saying? Biden's not a dictator. Now, what are they saying? Trump is expanding the power and acting like a dictator. That happens every time. It flips flops. So back to this. A compromise came because Hamilton knew where Jefferson and Madison were vulnerable. The story is a dinner set up by the vice president, who was a Federalist, also despised Hamilton. With Hamilton, Jefferson, Adams, and Madison. It probably wasn't the compromise that came out of this dinner, but that's kind of the story. These leading men, not regular people, leading men. And Hamilton knew what Jefferson, Madison wanted. They were from Virginia, and they wanted the national capital to be in Virginia and not be in Philadelphia or New York, AKA urban centers. And that's what they got. A rural capital. They'll literally build the capital in a swamp. And they'll carve out an area of Maryland and Virginia and call it the District of Columbia. And Madison, that's what he wanted. Madison dropped his opposition. Jefferson dropped his opposition. Here's a cartoon attacking Jefferson. That's supposed to be Jefferson. I know, hands are hard to draw. But going for the capital, he would do anything for that capital in his home state of Virginia, even make a deal with the devil. But more importantly, does anybody know who else lives on that same spot on the Potomac River and is obsessed with the Potomac? Thinks it might be a highway to the west. It won't be. It's be waterfalls and rapids. Anyone know who lives right now? They're home. Part of the National Park Service. It's open, but no one's watching me, so I imagine people are just rampaging through it right now. It's the government shutdown. They've opened the national parks, but they're not watching it. But you might know who lived, whose home is just upriver from Washington, D.C. Kind of an important person in 1792. Who's the most important person? Washington lives on the Potomac. Mount Vernon is his home. Here's an older map of Mount Vernon's right here. Washington, D.C. is right here. There's a tiny little place called Alexandria, but they just carved this area out. 50 years later, Virginia wanted this land back for various reasons. So that went to Virginia. All right. You do have to finish chapter 6. There's only about 8 pages left. And then what do we have on Tuesday? Separation of powers quiz, right? Okay. Have a great weekend, everybody. See you tomorrow. Yeah, I said see you tomorrow, didn't I? Okay.
I was getting
A what?
a CT
And?
and it's broken.
Shoot, I'm sorry.
It's
So you-
been a hard time. Yeah. So it's 69. Well. And then never gets a penny. Oh, there's all kinds of talk here. Yeah.
I'm really sorry.
They don't think.
Until they get a talk. How long is that?
I'm gonna keep your cards out. What?
I can't even have a single smile on my face without being quit. Oh, yeah.
It's,
Oh, that's plenty on that for you. Yes. It's gonna skip.
hey, half sheet of paper, let's do a quiz. Did you see that? Yeah.
Practice.
No formal training.
No, it's not. Get the off your bucket.
Half sheet of paper, let's go to 9.
I did, yes.
I like 9. 9 is good. No, can you?
Double.
Sad. And knowing. Is your.
Half sheet of paper, 1 to 9.
What do you think? If you want to, if you put them. Like, I understand what you said. It's like, I.
Mr. Phillips.
And we just did.
Yeah. Did you do that?
Yeah.
Think about it.
He can do a handstand and.
But he won't do it.
Really? Do you know if his birthday is like the same month as mine?
I don't know when your birthday.
Do you know?
No. I knew it was coming up.
It's right at 65.
Yeah, because he went last year, he took a week off for 6 months. And it was in November, I remember. He's a good guy. Half sheet of paper, 1 to 9. Number 1.
I read a bunch of like, I guess how it happened. I read how it was dance like it was actually, I really don't get it. You know, it's somebody that's. Yeah. 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 Yes.
Happy paper, let's go. Chop, chop, we're ready to get live. Look, I got a nice sunny day for you and you're burning it. That got people's reaction. That got people going. Nope, after the test.
Yeah.
After the test. Done. Any questions? Let's do it.
Is there?
Yeah, we got the quiz yet. Sorry. I got 100. I got everyone. I'm thinking about it. Maybe next week. Maybe yeah.
Yeah.
All the way back here. Okay, here it is.
Yeah.
Art. Okay, fine. Would you like a bonus question? Who? What cabinet position in the United States deals with? It's a call. Something department. Or the secretary deals with foreign affairs. Give you a hint. It's not the foreign affairs portion. It's that helps. When you're done, turn it over. We have the ratification battle for the Constitution. You can draw the ratification battle for the Constitution. On one side, the go to liberty. On the other side, the squid here. Draw your interpretation. What cabinet level position in this reform? Foreign affairs. The ratification battle, the go to liberty on one side, squid tyranny on the other. Or the squid tyranny scale.